Now, organic food was put in the spotlight recently when it became clear that a deadly outbreak of the E.coli virus, which killed more than 40 people in Europe, came from an organic farm. Now, of course, organic in recent years has come to mean supposedly the healthy option. But since those deaths in Germany, the organic food industry has been worried about a backlash. The World Today's Ed Butler has been speaking to Dominic Dyer of UK Crops Protection Association. He says it's time organic producers faced some unwelcome truths.
Well, I think this is a tragic outbreak. You know, E. coli is a deadly pathogen, and we've seen what that can do in terms of the people who've lost their lives and those that will suffer long-term health consequences. I think bean sprout production is a particular system of production which has, various risks associated with it. And E. coli is most definitely one of those. It was unfortunate this was an organic farm, but I think it does raise questions about organic standards and issues around how you can apply science such as irradiation to reduce the risk of E. coli, which the organic industry is very opposed to at the moment.
Irradiation, would that have stopped E. coli in this case?
99.9% certain you would have stopped this happening if you irradiated the seed. Now, irradiation has been around since the 1950s as a technology that's moved and developed. It's a very safe technology that's widely used for the importation, for example, of spices from India and other parts of the world. But it has a certain image associated with it. Many people are concerned just about the use of the word irradiation. But I think what we do need to look at is the wider benefits about reducing the risk of these terrible pathogens and diseases like E. coli.
And irradiation is widely used amongst non-organic foods?
It's not used widely. I'd say it's used probably for about 20% of certain products, like spices, where there are certain risks involved with them. And there are concerns in the wider food chain about its risks. But what I would say is that the organic industry, I think, has a problem in terms of just restoring confidence in the organic brand to ensure that people think there's not more risk associated with organic food consumption. And I think in this instance, the irradiation of seed of this type could be something they should be looking at long term.
What do organic producers say when you suggest irradiation?
Well, if you look at the 1990s, back in 1998, the US government started to develop national organic standards. When the American government went public with those draft standards, which included irradiation, they received over 300,000 petitions, both from US consumer groups and organisations involved in organic and other sides of food production, but also from many European organisations in Germany and other countries. The US government looked at that and were astounded by the response and decided they were going to backtrack, and they took those provisions out of the legislation. But my view is that the Americans were on the right track then. I think if they had applied those rules, if they had put irradiation into those standards, the European rules would have been altered. What we see in Australia, India and other parts of the world would have been altered, and we would have seen irradiation used more widely, and we might have avoided this particular tragedy in Germany.
So what's the objection to radiation?
I think primarily there's issues around health concerns that various organisations have. But if you look at the track history of this, if you look at the rules that have been applied and the regulatory rules that have been applied, the World Health Organization, the US Food and Drug Administration, other international bodies, credible international bodies, have looked at this and have proved based on science that there's no health risk at all. To be fair, there's probably more risk of you getting irradiation problems from your use of your mobile phone or sitting in front of a plasma TV screen than there is in relation to irradiation of seeds of this kind. So the risk to public health is minimal, but the benefits are significant.
But I mean, isn't that the issue with a lot of the arguments about organic, is that you use it to avoid any suspicion of risk, because there is a fear, with all kinds of modern technologies, that we don't quite know what the consequences of these things will be.
Exactly, but you have to look at them rationally, you have to look at the science and the evidence, and let's be clear about this, E. coli is a deadly pathogen. As we've seen in Germany, it kills people. Those people that haven't died will be on dialysis for the rest of their lives. This is a tragedy that could have been avoided. Now, if you have a technique that would allow you to irradiate the seed to reduce significantly, 99.9%, the risk of that pathogen developing, then I think we have a duty to look at that. I discussed that with the head of the Food Standards Agency yesterday in London at a conference, and I said to him that you should be, in my view, making public statements about this technology, about its safety, to really begin a wider debate about its use, not just in the organic food industry, but in the wider food chain as well.